This tale is, as all bard songs are, an adaptation. It may contain adult themes and strong language. Welcome, dear listeners, to Abyss.
Welcome to episode 21 of Abyss. This will be the start of just running through episodes with the cast and just hearing their thoughts and answering a couple of plot questions and stuff like that. So, who do we have here with us today? Well, to celebrate National Black Cat Appreciation Day, why do you appreciate black cats? Starting with Layla.
Hi, I'm Wednesday and I play Layla the Tiefling. And I appreciate black cats because I don't believe that they are bad luck. I think they're absolutely beautiful and they are more a symbol for good luck than bad, just because they're black. Like, you know, black things are not bad unless they're the plague. So yeah, that is why I appreciate black cats.
Very true, very true. Next we have Tauno.
Hi, and I'm Tauno, and I appreciate black cats because they're cats and deserve appreciation at the very least. Now, I don't have much to base that on, as my life I have not known that many owners, and none of those cat owners have owned cats that were black, so I guess I just theoretically appreciate black cats. I mean, I do believe they deserve appreciation, just I have not ever had to practically appreciate one.
I've just got this image of, like, you stood there in some sort of art gallery and there's, like, a little tall pedestal and the whole room's completely white and this black cat is sat on this pedestal and you're stood there going, yes, I appreciate this black cat. Sorry, just the way you described that.
I mean, that is kind of how it works, isn't it? I have not been in this situation, but I can imagine how it would go. I have never seen the person depicted here in this image, but I can imagine the composition. Was that more photography than painting?
Well, I was picturing more an actual live living cat, but...
Oh yeah. Don't you greet every cat with I appreciate you?
And on that note, Dragon.
Hello, I am Dragon. I play Nitra. I appreciate black cat because I have one. His name is Fafnir and he is incredibly spoiled. I've had quite a few black cats actually. There was one almost identical to Fafnir that adopted me a few years ago. And when I still stayed at home, we had a tiny pure black kitten brought into my mum's surgery and we ended up with him and he was absolutely adorable. He was the sweetest little kitten ever. I like black cats.
Okay. And finally this week, Susie.
Hi, I'm Susie. I play 13 the Goblin. And I appreciate black cats because, well, not the first ever cat in my life, but the cat that managed to sway me over from the side of being a dog person to a cat person was a black cat. And he had one eye, he had scaly eyes, so he had like one eye pointing to the left and one eye pointing to the right. And he was just the best. He was called Hendrix, as in Jimmy. He was just super. He was our neighbour's cat, and he was one of these cats who's quite happy with them, and they had an old dog, and then the old dog died, and they got a puppy, and he didn't really like the cats, and we would do things like people that don't own cats do, like leave windows and leave doors open, and frozen prawns on counter. So Hendrix would come in, and eat some frozen prawns. He was great fun. And yeah, every black cat I've ever met has always had a fun personality.
Fair enough. So, since we don't have to ask what happened last week, since it's the end of the campaign...
we won.
You did win.
We won!
Survived.
Yay! Yay! Can people ever win role-playing? We won! Yay! Yay, we won D&D!
I have to tell my group that we can't play anymore because I already won.
Yay!
Oh, God. Okay. So, going back to the very, very beginning was episode 1, which is the one that you all started in the slave camp. And I'll just let you tell me what your thoughts of the episode were and general remembrance of the episode, and we'll just give it about what your favourite things and so on were. So, what do you remember about episode 1?
My immediate reaction when we started having the zealot shouting about things was, is this meant to be here, or is this just Nikoli? Because you do have an obsession with having, raised prophets and religious zealot running around.
I can't help that.
It's fine. I was just incredibly unsure if it was a part of the setting or not.
I think he's just generally crazy, that character, if I remember right, so... yeah.
I was a little concerned about the fact that chain seemed to not, we couldn't seem to get rid of the chain, so we had to take everybody with us.
Including a corpse?
Yeah, including a corpse, because it's it kind of, if you've been role-playing for a while, you're kind of there's always a way out. You shouldn't need to take all the NPCs with you. But we had to take all the NPCs with us. I was okay, I don't know what's going on right now, but alright.
My favourite from that whole thing was when, a bunch of them on one end tried to, take off down the corridor with the zealot. But it was Tauno just, was no, I'm standing my ground. And everybody, kind of just jerked and then fell back.
Was that the first natural 20?
Yes, I think it was.
I think it may have been, yeah. It was beautiful.
After that, I did consider violence quite often as my first response to trouble. I mostly remember from that first episode also having to remember that I can't see in the dark. The rest of
because the rest of us all yeah, this is fine.
I had to keep an eye on where our stool was.
Yep. The stool was glowing. It's the only thing that was glowing.
Until we were trying to sneak and Trish took off all our clothes and covered them up. And everybody else was yep, this is no comment. And it was just Tauno who was the light came back and he sees her putting her clothes. He's what? What's going on this boat?
Ah, yes. I remember that now.
Yeah, that was quite funny.
Is there anything you want to know about episode 1?
Yeah, that thing that came out of the sea.
Yes.
Or the not sea, the undersea, whatever I don't know what to call it. The underlake. I don't know. The underlake.
I'm certain it has a name.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Yes. What was that thing and why?
In our version, it was the Vath Demon. In the book, it's called Demogorgon. Basically, what happens is you're meant to go to Slip to Dip and then talk to the people there, and then it's the town's divided between the people who are the older god, and then it's the daughter and the younger god. And stuff like that. But in our version, it was literally just there was this huge ceremony with this person leading it that just resurrected this massive demon from below the lake, and then they all got killed because that just seemed like a very appropriate start for you all escaping as everything is dying around you.
Standard.
It was a great show. 13 really enjoyed it.
I'll wait and I'll ask those questions when we get to Slip to Dip. That's fine.
Yeah, there's lots of things.
Rather than running through it and escaping in a boat.
Yeah, you basically escaped in a boat past this massive, massive demon. There wasn't really much else in episode 1
Somehow.
that happened, really, was there? Apart from you escaping and then escaping again.
Well, once we were in the boat, we managed to start breaking down the chains, and we saw the Drow slave hunters with the were rats.
Yeah.
and then we ended up at Grackleslough.
Where your chains broke, and some of you were kept
And then they
together.
had a job for us.
Yes, because they got rid of some of the NPCs that weren't really essential. And the rest of you all got brought along to the next bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think most of the first episode was us trying to get away, then witnessing Rise of Demogorgon and trying to get away from that then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plenty of good role-play and humour tossed in with dice rolling. You know, the tabletop RPG experience.
Okay. Well, first, there wasn't really much else in episode 1, so we will move slowly on to episode 2. Episode 2, which is completely different in the book from what happened to you, but...
Yeah. I was about to say, I think this is where you really put your own mark on it.
Yes. So I'll let you describe what happened in episode 2, and then we'll go over it. So, what happened in episode 2? What's your recollection of episode 2?
We got our job, which turned out to be taking care of a adolescent, obese red dragon that was also being... What's the
Milked.
phrase in English? I mean,
Milked.
I guess, but I think the farm phrase is put out to stud. Is that the word? Is that?
Oh my
goes?
gosh.
Gen-
Guys, do we have to
generally
talk
that-
about this?
Generally, that is when the animals are in the same place, rather than it being extracted and then inseminated later.
Stud also just kind of means for breeding. So
Yeah.
the actual term for what was being produced is samples.
Right, yeah,
Ah.
because
Yes.
it was not used for breeding; it was used for cosmetics. I think that is the one lingering thread throughout the entire campaign. We never got to see the other end of this trade route.
Well, we did. We saw some of it.
Yeah, and who knows
We
what's
did
in that
see some
soup.
of it. Because when we met the kobolds, they had the female dragon that was Themberchaud's mother. But
They
the
did.
scary
Yeah.
thing was that his samples were being taken to impregnate her.
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty
That's
gross.
the bit I was like, ew. Which
I don't
means
know.
that the other egg, which never reappeared, is his brother and his son.
His
Or-
brother son, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know dragon genetics, but that sounds messed up.
It does, doesn't it? I mean,
No,
like,
cat
but
produce
animals.
spawn
No,
like
no,
that.
no. No,
I mean-
but this is the thing. Like, do you see dragons as animals, or do you see them as higher than humans? Because if they're like animals, incest to animals doesn't really matter.
Doesn't it? I think
Most
it
of the
depends on
time.
s-
Most of the time, it doesn't.
yeah,
I
as long
don't-
as it's only, if it's one instance, genetically it's not going to be an issue. If it keeps happening multiple times
Yeah.
over with each generation, that's when you're going to have an issue.
I don't know. I think animals
if
are a
you're
lot more
looking-
robust than people, though, in terms of that.
I think if you look at human, you need a population of 500 to not end up incested enough that, you know, inherited diseases and genetic disorders might be
Yeah.
a problem. But I think if you're just looking at a single pairing, so long as one step further out than cousin, and you're good to go, I believe.
Yeah. It's third cousins.
Yeah, it's
Now,
just,
somehow we've ended up in that discussion during a D&D podcast.
Yeah.
that was kind of
We're
inevitable.
not all. I was going to say we're
So-
not all spunk jokes. But
Oh my god. Really?
We ended up with
Yeah.
a lot of those in the
I
first
think-
few episodes.
I do think we're still within third cousins of spunk jokes.
I
Oh
mean,
god.
you totally know 13 is selling suspicious jars of white stuff labeled face cream in her little shop.
Yes.
She's
I
put
do.
glitter in it, you know. It's magical.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I was just really pleased that we got clothes, even though they weren't the best outfits
That was
in the
good.
second episode. But the rest of the episode, I spent feeling rather ill and awkward because of our situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, what's meant to happen in this episode is you're meant to get to Grackleslough. I guess it's in the book rather than what we did. You're meant to get to Grackleslough, and then this is the start of the you need to do all this stuff for all these factions things, which I just cut completely out of the story because I was just like, I don't like factions. I think factions just weigh the plot down and just sort of ruin, everything you could be doing. So, in our version, you turned up to this thing, immediately got sent on one of the quests. One of the quests was indeed to speak to this dragon, but in the book you're meant to talk to the dragon. The dragon's meant to be this big, serious dragon, and it's meant to be... They are wanting to replace him. That's why they have bought this egg, but they don't know if the dragon's gotten wind of it and hidden the egg, or if something's happened to it, because it has gone missing. And he wants you to try and... You basically have to do the guards and the dragon, playing each off against each other, who are both trying to play you as well, as to what's actually going on. And I felt that while that was worth doing, I thought putting the concept of an incredibly spoiled dragon in, that these dwarves are just yeah, we fucked up, we didn't know how to raise a dragon and we've ended up with him. What the fuck do we do? I thought that was much more of an interesting story, rather than just this sort of annoyed dragon that was just going to be I don't want anything to do with you. Mrr. So yeah, that's why you ended up with what happened to Thembershard, put it that way.
So why was there the samples? I'm assuming samples was not in the book.
No, samples wasn't in the book. The whole concept of this, as I think I mentioned to a couple of you before, was I vaguely remember an episode of 6 Feet Under where there was a woman who
Yes,
got
you
her
did
sons
mention it.
to jack off, and she used that as face cream, and I thought it's just a sort of twisted, what would the dwarves do when they're trying to get as most money they can squeeze out of this dragon possible? What could they do? And I thought nobles are idiots and they'll take anything, so I thought, yeah, we'll do something like that, see what we get from it. And also just a sort of gross out factor, just to see how you'd react to it, and you all seem to go this is terrifying but also hilarious. And also when I mentioned it to the person I was sort of scribbling ideas with, she literally doubled over laughing and went, you have to keep that in. So yeah, that's basically it. It's a very weird concept, but on some twisted level it seems to work somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it did. Ishidoro and 13 had a great time in episode 2. And
That's
continued
hilarious.
to throughout.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of these things 13 just has no moral compass whatsoever. So everything's fine.
Isn't that what you want from a minion?
Exactly! This is fine. Everything's burning down and it's oh look. Just takes, delight in everything that comes her way because she gets to meet some really cool people. She's made some good friends. But I'm curious about what actually happened with the missing dragon's egg, because we never found that.
I think in the book,
we got eggs.
It's rumoured in the book that what happened is the dragon steals it. In the version I did, I was alluding the dragon had stolen it, but the dragon's an idiot, so it could have been anywhere in it. So,
I assumed that Thembershard had got hold of it.
Yeah.
But I had no idea whether he would have had just trashed it, whether he had decided to put it in the middle of the hoard that he was lying on.
I don't think it ever kind of come up,
Or
but I
just
think in my
ate
head I
it.
had the idea that he had taken it and hidden it somewhere that they couldn't find it. Because he'd grown aware of it, and he might be thick, but he's not thick enough to not realise that they are trying to replace him. Why else would they have another dragon egg around? So he did kind of go out of his way to steal the egg somehow, which, considering that he'd barely left the room, would probably be the only kind of how did he actually do that kind of thing. But I think we could have had it that he easily manipulated one of the other work teams that you had replaced that day to steal it for him. So yeah, that's probably the only real outlying bit in this episode, at least, as to what actually happened to the egg. But yeah, basically the egg just disappeared and everyone's just something's happening with this dragon. This dragon's not happy.
Well, we knew he wasn't happy, and that he seemed pretty out of it.
He seemed content when we met him.
I'm not convinced he was content at that.
It wasn't until we made him aware, sort of Socrates in the cave, if you remember that parable.
To an extent, but also what they were doing was horrific.
Oh yeah,
just because you are used to always being abused doesn't mean that it's better to be left in that situation.
No doubt. I'm not advocating dragon abuse, which sounds weird to say.
Certainly when you're on a call with me anyway.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing with the dwarves where they were just the kind of epitome of greed in a way that they're very out for themselves, like how much could they get. They really disliked Darrow, which if you don't... In the book, they're still just like, oh, they're second-class citizens, blah, 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 blah. And
in the book,
they were just like, meh.
In the book, the dwarves of Gragglestug are Wergar, aren't they?
I think so, yes.
Oh. Oh, that's quite a big difference then.
Yeah, because that's specific to Dungeons and Dragons, and I think I'm maybe the person here who is most into that meaningless Dungeons and Dragons lore that any group can change, but that I, for some reason, have decided to remember. But Wergar basically dwarves that have abandoned or been abandoned by mainstream dwarf society and just favor complete greed over anything else.
Okay. Yeah, so the change to Thimbershod works perfectly with that then.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Was that deliberate?
I don't think it's a deliberate change, but I think that originally it was more just kind of like I kept reading dwarves and I was just like, I'll just put them as dwarves. Because I just kind of felt that suited a bit better, but no, Dwargar probably would work fine. It's one of those things of just trying to simplify things and probably should have left that as it originally was, but yeah.
No, that'd work.
Dwarf is at this point fairly common to the pop cultural lexicon. I don't think Dwergar is there quite yet.
No, not yet anyway.
It depends what circles you're travelling in.
That is very true.
That is true as well.
So basically tell the dragon what's going on, you at least get some new clothes and get out of most of your manacles and stuff like that. At the start of the episode, I got to get rid of a lot of the NPCs that I didn't feel were worthwhile, which was fun, because I only learned like 3 or 4 weeks after we'd started that you didn't have to take all the NPCs in the book.
Yeah.
I thought you had to take all of them, which is why you ended up with all of them. But I think all of them
That worked out really well, so...
Yeah. All of them kind of got their story, there's only one of them that didn't, and they were kind of too difficult to write back in, really.
Which one
You
was
did
that?
manage to get some back in.
I got most of them back in. The only ones I didn't get back in was there was the twin were-rats at the start. One got killed by a falling rock, and the other one just disappeared with Jimjar, and then when you got to Blindstone, it just disappeared. That was the only one I couldn't write back in because I did allude to them being there, but you didn't chase up on it at all, so I was just like, well, there's nothing I can do, they're written out now.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that when we get to Blindstone.
Yeah.
So this episode also saw... Who was the name of the crazed...
Oh, the prophet, the crazed prophet from...
Bipido. Yep.
I mean, yeah, Bibido might have been his name, but I don't think he ever told us his name.
No, he didn't.
No. His whole gimmick in the book was he's just crazy. Like a proper psychopath that will just randomly turn on you whenever he feels like it.
So a Darrow.
Yeah, he's a Darrow. His whole arc was you refound him in the sort of area when you were investigating the sort of place in the river that had the dragon stuff in it. And his whole shtick was that he approached and the dwarves were like, you should get away from here. And he gets accused of stealing or accused of dealing mushrooms. And that was to tie in, there's a mushroom story that's supposed to be started in Grackleslough, but you're meant to meet like a crazed stone giant that's out of his head on mushrooms, and I was like, I don't want to bring the giants in yet. So the only way I thought about bringing it in was to create this mushroom problem that's actually going around in the slums of Grackleslough, which is why Bipido throws like half a pouch of mushrooms down his neck and goes absolutely insane and starts trying to kill everyone, ripping dwarves' legs off.
And gets superpowered, apparently.
Yes.
Well, he's super strength.
Yeah, he gets his kind of utterly crazy, so he plays up the sort of psychopath role while also introducing the mushroom side of the story, whilst also sort of giving him a sort of end note, effectively.
And that, of course, was also when Tauno got his nice crop top chainmail.
And my hammer.
And your hammer.
Yes.
I think the hammer, while it wasn't, the most noticeable thing I got, did end up mattering more in the end.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I don't know what we would have done without that hammer. We'd have had to, picked up big rocks or something.
We would have failed smashing gems.
We would
Although
have used
this
the
was
shovel.
also... Yeah.
No, I tried with the shovel in the one episode and it didn't work.
So
that
this
shovel.
was also where we discovered that Ishidoro will eat random things to see if they're safe.
Oh yeah!
Yes.
And we discovered that Layla is a sweetheart who has a propensity to throw up around disgusting things.
Yep.
Pretty
Around
much
almost
every
everything.
in barrels or bottles.
Oh god.
So yes, you went in, got some new gear, defended the dragon, then left, and then you basically talked to the dragon one last time and basically convinced him to destroy Dracoslaw as you left.
Well, no. We told him that was an option for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he very kindly told us how to get out of the city before he was going to destroy it, which was very kind of him.
What basically happened is Bladero overthrew the dwarves when the dragon decided it was gonna rebel, and that's what happened in Dracoslaw.
Yeah.
But we will cover that again when we come back to Dracoslaw later on, because that episode was fucking weird. So much of that episode that you just waltzed past and didn't look at, and I was just like, okay, sure. Let me think. Has anything else happened in episode 2? I think you left through the sort of cosmetics factory, as it was called, and after stealing a bag full of samples.
Yeah.
And paprika.
And the paprika, yes, I forgot about the paprika.
I forgot about the paprika.
It's important later on.
It was. This is true. However, we left Dracoslaw and we discovered Netherlight Grotto.
You did, which was episode
3.
What happened with Netherlight Grotto was, it's meant to be called Netherlight Grove, as I said, but for some reason I got in my head with Netherlight Grotto and it's stuck.
It's technically underground and there's a cave and so a grotto. Actually, I'm going to look up the definition of grotto now that I've started talking.
Grotto probably works better, to be honest.
A grotto is a small picturesque cave, especially an artificial one in a park or garden.
That kind of
Yeah, that works.
It kind of works.
Yeah, it does.
So, this was the first one to sort of get you more experience of what's actually going on with Stool,
Yeah.
because I felt that he kind of needed, well, it was the sort of path up anyway, but it did feel that he needed a bit more explanation what a myconid actually is, which is a sort of very strange hive mind mushroom people.
Yeah, I was unaware of that, despite the fact that Stool had decided that I was best person.
You were a nice smelling lady.
Yes. Which is
I don't
really
know.
confusing as I was a drow.
Now, I did ask whether myconids have mouths, but do they have noses?
I assume so.
That's an interesting
Considering,
They must have some kind of sense.
well, considering smell is like, what, 60% of taste? Something like that?
I don't know.
I need to be honest, but Stool basically creeped Layla out since the beginning, right up until the end. She was so weirded out, and it's like, okay, fine, I imagine he's this cute little mushroom dude, which is fine, that's chill, but the fact that he speaks in your mind, like, that's the first thing that's a little bit unsettling. And then he just seemed really crazy. Like,
That's
the kind
fair.
of, yeah, the kind of crazy, like someone with schizophrenia crazy. So they're not dangerous, they're just really not normal.
That's a good way of describing it, yes.
Yeah, so Layla was creeped out by Stool from the start, from the get-go.
I think Stool as a character was very different from how he is in the book. How he is in the book is basically meant to be this just universal translator you've got sort of waddling along after you, and I kind of felt that, no, I want him to do more than that.
Yeah, that feels a little clumsy.
Yeah. So Stool went from being this like literal universal translator that can talk to anyone to being just this sort of, he started being just this innocent mushroom. Because in the book it does describe that he has very much a sort of little brother syndrome, that he'll just sort of tag on to someone. But I was just like, I'll put him in and just let him get accustomed to the rest of you and he'll just follow you. And then I think all of you just seemed to sort of start sort of accepting him kind of thing, apart from Layla, who's terrified of him. But yeah, that was Stool. What do you remember of episode 3?
We arrive at Neverlight Grotto. We are introduced to the myconids there and to the upcoming wedding, I believe. We do have some negotiations. We're told of Now, I know you said you dislike factions, Nikolai, but I think we did end up meeting the two Myconid factions there.
Definitely.
It wasn't even so much these were meant to be factions. It was Myconids are again kind of hive mind, but you, in the version we did, I had it that the demon was possessing Philo. In the
Yes.
book, the demon possesses, I think it's the big tower just outside of the
Oh,
city, the one that you go to near the
Okay.
end.
The one that I was very frightened of and convinced was actually the demon, or somewhat connected to the demon, where the bride
Yes.
was supposed to be.
Yes, because I was just like,
Didn't
it felt like if a demon was there, it would want to get involved. And how Myconids work is they meld with each other, so they can like share things and share experiences and all this stuff. So it was the feeling that the demon had melded with other Myconid, and it just like made them incredibly like lucid and happy for no apparent reason. So half of them were just these demon basically infused mushrooms that were just running around giggling and going and the other half were like, no, don't like where the word's going, don't like where this is going, this is just terrifying, what the fuck's going on. And that was
wait, so was it that there was just two halves in this?
yes,
There was the ones that had melded with Philo and the ones that had melded with Stool.
the ones that melded with Basidia.
Where do the ones that melded with Stool come into it?
I don't think Stool melded at all.
He did, because he made some of them scared.
He told them about us, at least.
Yeah, I think if you
He melded with them.
If you melded Stool with any of them, those ones had the traumatic experience of knowing what Stool's experience in prison was like.
Yes,
So
so he must have melded with them.
yeah,
Well, you said he did.
would have been the ones Stool melded with that are
That were timid.
like
Yeah.
more terrified, more worried about outsiders and where they come from and the dangers of being caught and stuff like that.
They were definitely scared of us.
Mm.
Definitely.
Did Stool leave
I
it?
don't know,
and
they
you
don't have to be scared of us.
Oh no, wait, Stool left and you refound him in Netherlight, didn't he?
Yeah.
That was why.
Yeah.
That's why I was like confused.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
He,
yeah,
he
we lost.
left Grackle's Slough because Basidia was asking why some of the other Myconids were saying I smelled nice,
That was
and we
it,
realised it had Bill.
Yeah.
yeah,
Because it was
I forgot to mention this when we were discussing episode 2, but for some reason, out of the 14 prisoners, everyone got to go except us.
yes,
We had to have the job.
yes,
Oh yeah.
because you were the wrong place at the wrong time.
But the others were there at the same time at the same place.
Yeah, they'd all left and it was just leaving you. Heaven forbid
They
you were
all
the main
had
part of the
somewhere
story.
to go.
Look,
Yeah.
okay, there was that one guy who ended up with the Myconids and that giant snail thing. I'm
Sarah.
just gonna call it a giant snail.
Sarah.
And it was really gross. That was really disgusting.
Oh,
And I
Well, Sareth's whole deal, in our version, our deal was that he went to look at this garden and he got basically captured and covered in these like growths on his face, and eventually
Yeah.
you just killed him.
Mm.
In the book, what happens is as soon as he gets near this garden, his head explodes and he
Oh,
turns
wow.
into some sort of Triffid-like thing.
Jesus. Okay, that's grim.
So
Okay, I prefer your version.
yeah, the version I
Yeah.
had was far more character-centric, rather
Yeah.
than just having someone that just you go la 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 la. Well, let's go explore here. Okay, I'll come with you. Da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
'Cause, yeah, it makes
Yeah, it's
sense
pretty gross.
him being there as well.
Yeah.
But then Philo was very strange. Like, how did he get infected by the demon to begin with?
well, the demon can shapeshift. So just how the demon
Uh-huh.
just did the sort of T2 thing of going, you're a nice shape, kill. So it just took his place, and then every
Oh.
mushroom that mind melded with him just became demon infested.
Oh, so it wasn't even Philo.
No, that's why Philo
Wow.
suddenly went from being as he was to being really strange. I might have think it would have had to been that he melded with the demon, and then
Yeah.
the demon got its like his memories and stuff, and then the demon bumped him off. But
Right.
that's basically about as
Oh.
how it kind of went. But yes, I kind of felt that the wedding itself was very weird,
Yes.
because the wedding itself is you've got one demon that's trying to marry the big mushroom so that she'll have control over significantly more realm. But equally, you have
Yes.
another demon that wants to eat the giant mushroom because he just likes to eat things. And so it felt very... And how you're meant to combat it is you're meant to go into the mental realm, beat back the demon that's sort of mentally manipulating the mushroom, which is the one that's like trying to marry it because it wants to sort of subdue it and then marry it and then basically take over it. And then once you come out of that, you're meant to fight the one that's trying to eat it. So I know we are getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but my version was that there was the one demon that was trying to mentally manipulate this mushroom, which was Philo. And once you bumped off Philo, immediately this giant mushroom sort of woke up out of his daze and started attacking back.
Right.
So, although you sort of met Philo, met what was going on, and then left, when you came back later on, I know we'll cover this properly again when we come later on, but when you came back and Philo just gets bumped off, that's why the mushroom suddenly wakes back up.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Alright. I don't know. I just thought 13 and I were in the same mindset. Let's just burn everything to the ground.
I think we were so freaked out by the Garden of Welcome that we were just like, this is all horrific. Nope.
They're happy and smiling. Burn them.
All of this is bad.
What would have happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is just theoretically.
Yep.
But if you were playing the actual campaign, what would have happened if you had decided to eat like the demon-possessed tower?
Eat the tower.
Because one of us would have tried that.
Considering that it was large enough for several people to stand inside, eating the entire thing
I
would
thought someone did
a
eat.
challenge.
I think someone did eat. I think you did eat the mushroom.
Someone did eat it.
13 did take a bite because she was the only one that could like fit through the door.
Yeah, that was
And
it. That was the later episode.
I remember her looking. Yeah, that was much later on. But I remember looking at the wall and being like, "Hey, it's mushrooms." Yeah, because
So
she liked Ishidoro. And
I think if you had eaten it and it had been properly demon filled, probably wouldn't have been good for you. I'm not sure what I'd have done. But...
yeah, you'd have to have ended up like getting demon possessed or something.
Something weird would have happened.
Roll for madness or some stuff.
The thing is, the whole campaign wants you to have this madness tracker all the way along, and I was just like, it's extra faff. I'd rather just people start getting more paranoid about what's going on naturally rather than having to add this madness tracker. Because that's just how I prefer to run my games. But you did meet the giant snail who had lost his mind. I'm trying to remember why he'd lost his mind. I think he'd also been affected by the demon. But yeah, he was just crazy. And then I think you all ran away, if I remember right. You did try and set something that was mostly made of like sort of sodden marshland, effectively, on fire, which I thought was quite hilarious.
I think we tried.
That was hilarious, and I think at that point Therese was just like, this is not going to work.
13 was
There's
pretty
no
sure
way
she could
this can
start a
work.
fire.
Just go.
And then you roll a natural 1 and trying to start a fire?
Yeah, she was pretty sure she could do it, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I think we tried to fight the snail. Was it yes to something? Yes to Bread, yeah. We tried to fight Yes to Bread and failed to do anything resembling harm, so we just ran away.
Sounds about right.
I also love that it was, so what side, are you the bride's side or the groom's side? So we know where you're sitting. That was so creepy but brilliant.
It was trying to denote that the whole Myconid thing is it's a hive mind. And later on when you come back and they're still very, hive mindy, like half of them are running around like crazies and the half are standing still looking at you weird, it was all kind of meant to just think they seem to somehow be this hive mind culture. They just respond to, if corruption seeps in, it just starts spreading and spreading and spreading and spreading. But we will come to that in more detail when we come back to Netherlight Grotto, which is not that far away.
Yeah.
You left Netherlight Grotto, and the next one was the Ooze Temple. Now, this was meant to be a side quest in the book that I decided to put in now because I felt that it fit the best way to get to Blingdenstone rather than just roughly travelling. So, as usual, we'll just say what was your recollection of the Ooze Temple?
Really creepy and really suspicious because it's you and I know you and I know how you DM and I was convinced you were trying to kill us all.
Would I do
Generally, GMs
Yes.
are not supposed to do that. I don't know.
They're not. However,
God.
it has happened far too many times. It's also really, I like the fact that the black and white tiles were part of the trap, or part of the way to get through safely. The reverse cat flap doors were bizarre.
Yep.
Yeah. It was
Um,
interesting. I thought that was one of the most interesting scenes that we actually had in the underdog, in the fake underdog.
I think
Yeah.
my memories of this episode have to be me coming up with a puzzle and then you just asking what the answer was.
Yep.
To be fair, you were the one who chose to have Eric talk to Stool.
Mm-hmm. And that was really freaked me out to begin with.
Well, the
I was
thing
just
is
like,
that none of you
this
reacted
can't
freaked
be
out.
good.
You were just like, and Stool just sort of looks far away and you're like, what is it? And he's like, friend Eric! And you're just like,
what?
okay.
What does he say?
Like,
And then that works.
yeah, that works. And you go, oh, Eric must be a friend. Okay, well, we'll just accept Eric's help. And I'm just sitting there looking at the screen.
No!
No.
No, we
No.
were suspicious of Eric. But
We
it
just didn't
worked
have
to
any
get us
better
out.
ideas.
It worked to get us out because, I mean, again, he gave us the correct answer. If we had to find the correct answer, we would have discovered that he was saying the right thing.
Yeah, it was more of a, we weren't sure how else to do it. So taking a chance on following Eric's instructions was worth the risk.
I mean, it
But
was basically like
we were
if
still
one of
freaked
us.
out.
Yeah, it was basically like as if any one of us had come up with that suggestion, and the entire group wasn't entirely sure, so we'd try it. Oh, it works. Then we kept asking that person what we should do for the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
we did. I don't remember myself trusting Eric that much because I was convinced that he was an ooze inside the ooze temple that wanted us to get to him at the end of it or some such thing. I just thought we could fight him when we came that far.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Eric was a demon. Like, he was like the big bad.
What happened?
Didn't it turn out?
You went down into the stone because you fell down the hole. And then
Yeah.
literally the first room you went into had this massive deep pool. And all of you kind of go, oh, it's a deep pool. But didn't look at it, and I was just like, oh, okay. If you had
Well, we
looked,
fell into it, didn't we?
if you had looked at the bottom of it, you'd have found a very enormous gelatinous cube.
Didn't we fall into the cube? The pool.
No. I think you fell into
No,
it.
we
You
didn't.
looked into it, you didn't look that deep into it. And then
I think we looked into it and rolled really badly. She's like, oh, I'm going to try and look in this.
yeah. And then
Ah.
you all went along and had a look in the next room. And I think it was this point Still started talking to Eric. I think I remember describing it as everything's really clean. Like there's no dust along this place, as in like a cube had come along and just absorbed all the stuff, or there was a thick layer of goo on the floor, which I think Ishidoro ate as well. It was Ishidoro.
I think he tried it, yes.
Yeah. So then you found the statue of fake Eric, and you were like, "Oh, is that Eric?" Still's like, "No, that's the fake Eric," and you're just like, "Okay, sure." The whole point about Eric following you was, or Eric giving you the answers, is Eric knows how to get to the second last door. Eric doesn't know how to get to the last door, and Eric wants out of here. But the only way he'll get out of here is if you leave the doors open. Which you did.
Right. Okay.
So that was the thing about Eric, was that you left all the doors open as you went along, and Eric just sort of followed you very slowly.
Wow, that's creepy.
And then once you got out of the Ooze Temple, and all the villagers in Blingstone were like, yes, Glabago is back, and you were like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's like, yes, because this giant gelatinous cube that had been stuck in this temple for God knows how long has finally got back out of this temple.
So the ooze's name for itself is Eric.
So the ooze's name is Glabago. It's just
Okay, then what?
when I first sat looking at ideas for it, I was like, if I have Stool go, oh, friend Glabago, you'll be like, right, I'm expecting a
Yeah.
you're a wizard or something. Whereas I said, oh, friend
Yes.
Eric, you'll be like, okay, is this actually a friend? Is this an enemy? What the fuck is Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that worked.
no,
That worked.
that worked.
Because, yeah, as I said, if I just said him, go, yeah, friend Glabagal, you'd just be like, immediately just like, senses full up, like, what the fuck is Glabagal?
Especially when we got out of there and we got to Blingiston, we get told who Glabagul is. We couldn't have been told who Glabagul was if he wasn't calling himself Eric to Stool.
Yep.
Or we could have, but it would kind of broken some of the tension and uncertainty.
What I found hilarious is the fact that Stool starts going on about friend Eric says this, friend Eric says that, and none of you go, can you ask Eric what he is? If you'd said that, Eric should just response was, oh, it's a friend, and that's it. But none of you asked.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I don't think we asked at that point, but I'm pretty sure at some point we did ask.
I think some point later
And-
you did ask.
Yeah, we
But at the
didn't get a
moment you
helpful
didn't.
answer.
No.
So,
The whole point is Stool was basically being manipulated by Eric, but he didn't realise it. So, I did like the fact that I did my traditional, a door handle as the final trap. Sort of mystery door to open, and all of you took such a long time to work out it was the door handle, which is adorable.
I love that it was 13 that worked it out. It was just like, I try this!
Does it open? Yes. Okay.
Way!
It just reminds me of an episode of of the original series Purple we did, when I did the room full of 1001 keys and a door. And the solution is just to walk straight through the door, but the door's shut, and everyone goes, right, fuck, it must be one of these keys. But the door's got like some weird magnetic lock in it, so when you put a key in, the bolt goes across. The whole
So it
point is you just
doesn't
meant to
open.
open
It
the
will
door.
never
If you put anything in the lock, the door locks.
I like that. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's just one of those like really simple puzzles that just really fuck with people. Where you're just like, try the door. Does the door open? No. Right, okay, but who tries a door that's not got a key in it when there's thousands of keys around you?
Yeah, it's like the player's curse though, isn't it? Like you've got a really simple problem right in front of you, and the players, for whatever reason, just consistently focus on the wrong thing and
Overcomplicated.
keep
Yeah.
rolling shit. Yeah, and they you get wilder and wilder plans. Like I was in another game and there was this door which was really heavy. And basically what we needed to do was all four of us push it and get a sort of average, sort of decent strength check to pass it. And we almost got it there. That was the point when our wizard decided he was going to dimension door into the room because there was a bit of a gap. And then there was a lever on the other side of the door. My character stood there like, what do you see? He's like, there's a lever. And she's like, right, pull the lever. And he's like, no. He then proceeds to expend all of his spell slots trying to blow up the door hinges.
Yeah.
Oh my
He
god.
did eventually succeed. He did blow off the door hinges, but it was like, come on, dude. And then my character just went in and she pulled the lever and the one door that remaining just went thunk and opened.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I mean, part of me does love using the big red button, because if you put them in a room, open a room, there's just a big red button that says push me. Half of the time it's do we hit the button? And then half of them are like, no, something bad will happen. It's like,
And then my character is the one that goes and pushes it while everyone's debating whether or not to push the button.
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, I just think that this episode was a laugh. As I said, it was meant to be a just additional episode. You get 3 temples at the end of the book that are just meant to be additional temples for use whenever you want. And I felt that this one kind of suited now. And I liked the idea of just this weird temple with this massive gelatinous cube. In the book, it's meant to be a friend. It is meant to just sort of waddle along after you, just like, hi! And I was like, no,
Jelly.
no. It's meant to be a friend that is big enough to block doorways and stuff, and I'm just like, no.
Wait.
So it's an actual intelligent gelatinous cube.
Yeah, it's got an intelligence of, I think it's 10 or 12, something like that.
Well, that puts
That's
it at
not
average human intelligence, considering most ooze creatures have no intelligence.
Mm.
That explains why I might want friends, considering it's suddenly, sentient.
I don't know. I'm glad you put it in because, well, this temple, because otherwise Layla wouldn't have found a shovel.
and suddenly the demise of Eric is sad.
Yeah, because he was actually a friendly jelly.
Well, in the book he was a friend, in our version he was a droplet of Gibblex.
He told us how to get out of the temple, then he didn't communicate with us, and then he showed up for the wedding to save us.
Well, he and Stool were still in contact.
Eric's actual character was that he was the son of Gibblex, but he was a really hot-headed, effectively, because he had the, why don't you just go and kill him? Like, why don't you just kill Zugtami? So Eric's whole thing is, why don't you just go and kill Zugtami? And Gibblex is like, no, you can't just walk up and kill him. Because if you walk up and kill him, I know this is explaining a later episode, but if you just walk up and kill Zugtami, then she'll stop distracting Arimsios, and Arimsios will kill Gibblex. So, in my version, the whole reason why Gibblex couldn't kill Zugtami, well, we're all at a stalemate and nothing really happened, was because Zugtami was trying to control Arimsios, and Arimsios was fighting back Gibblex. But if Gibblex killed Zugtami, Arimsios would basically break out of his stupor and kill Gibblex.
Why?
Because, I know this is explaining a later episode, but do you remember the episode where you basically had the giant mushroom fighting the ooze?
Yes.
And the giant mushroom actually managed to beat back the ooze.
Yes.
That was because Zugtami was killed.
Yes.
So Arimsios snapped out of his stupor of being distracted by Zugtami and then was able to kill Gibblex.
Okay, so both of them were trying...
Yeah, both of them wanted to kill or take over the mushroom.
Right,
Fuck knows why, it's in the book, they both wanted to, but the whole reason why Eric's important is because Eric came out of the Ooze Temple, and the first thing Eric does is Eric tells you about the Pudding King.
Yes.
The second thing Eric does is Eric goes and takes out Zugtami by absorbing Philo, spitting Philo out as a gem, and you take him away, which breaks Arimsios out of his stupor and kills Gibblex. But Eric thinks he's doing the right thing because Eric thinks that his father's just, old and stuffy and doesn't understand, you just kill it, you've got the power, why don't you just use it? And the whole point of that is meant to be that Eric was kept in this, don't know if it was a nursery, don't know if it was just a sort of holding pen for him, but Eric is a droplet of Gibblex that's been deliberately kept in this temple, effectively. And it's only when he breaks out, or you let him out, effectively, that he causes the downfall of his own father. That's the basic Eric storyline.
Okay.
Which sounds so much more complicated than it should, but it's something we'll probably re-explain.
Yeah.
Later.
So we're going through this temple. We did question. Yes, we did question who the hell Eric was, but we followed it anyway.
Yep.
We get to Blingdestone and we find Jim Jar, because Stool was obsessed. We had to find Jim Jar.
And Jim Jar still wants to make bets.
Yeah,
all of the bet.
His whole thing is he's a gambler. That's his whole shtick.
But the only reason that Stool was like, we have to find Jim Jar, is because he had a bet about which one would live longer out of him and Sereth.
I thought that was a really sort of cute thing, that Stool would be so obsessed that we have to go, and none of you asked him why. You just sort of went, oh, okay, we have to go? Yes, we have to go. Oh, okay, sure, let's go. And the whole point is Stool had a bet with Jim Jar that he would survive and Eric wouldn't.
Yep.
At least Rasthikos also followed because it would take us to Blingdestone, which was, or at least on the surface, supposed to be a somewhat civilized place, which seemed like a step in the right direction.
It did, and we couldn't stay where we were. We needed to keep moving, otherwise the slavers would recapture us.
Or the demonic mushroom stuff would happen to us.
Yep. There was really good reasons for us to keep moving.
Plus, we were headed that way anyway.
Jim Jar then tells us who Glabagul is. It's one of those stories that you tell children to scare them. And Stool says, but friend Eric told him that there's the Pudding King who commands the slimes.
Yep.
And there's a slime problem in Blingdestone.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently they spend all of their time trying to clean up slime.
Blingdestone is a very strange location because the whole point of Blingdestone is it's meant to still be feeling the effects of the Drow trying to level the whole place.
Right.
That's why there's only
Okay.
like a quarter of Blingdenstone populated. And there's all these like areas that are not populated in Blingdenstone. You go through the sort of unpopulated areas, if you remember, with the like knocking team.
Yes, yeah, that there's still... Well, it did feel like it was like a city that's only just managed to survive.
Yeah.
And they hated Drow, which I remember because I was very careful to be hiding from gnomes because they did not seem friendly to Drow.
Yes, I think you were warned about that as well by someone. The whole point of Blingdenstone is still... I think in the book it tells you that Blingdenstone was the city that let some Drow in and then kicked them out for some reason, and then those Drow went, got an army, came back and tried to level the whole place.
Yeah.
So that's the very, very, very fastly spun over what happens in Blingdenstone, but Blingdenstone is very much still feeling the sort of scorched earth policy of the Drow, in that certain parts of them still have this very high fell magic feel, which is where all the were-rats come from.
Is it? Okay. Well,
Were-rats don't just bite someone and they hatch.
Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of the were-rats, like the ones you started with in the chain gang at the beginning, I think, were from Blingdenstone, and they'd been affected by the sort of fell magic, and that's what caused them to be were-rats. Because one of the things you find when you come back to Blingdenstone is when they come down, one of the knock teams says, "Oh, I found this manacle and it looks like one of yours." And that's because it was like one of yours. It was the last remaining member of your party, which has been the were-rat that escaped. But were-rats just ran as soon as they saw whatever the people in Blingdenstone were. Whenever they went in, the were-rats just ran because they were feral as all fuck. In the book, however, they're meant to be a new faction and you're meant to help mend things. No.
Again, it seems like the book is built to be a long campaign.
The problem is
Several things going on, whereas what you've been running, it has been this... How many sessions did we do? 15, 20? 19.
19.
Yep.
Oh yeah, we raced through the storyline.
We do D&D at speed, I'm very aware of that, but the one thing I didn't get, right, is you're meant to be being chased by the Drow, the whole point, but you're meant to stop in each of these towns and do all these things to win this faction's approval, which didn't feel right when you're being chased by Drow. Not to me, anyway. I mean, the Drow are meant to arrive at certain locations when you're there and you're either hiding or you're, trying to give them the slip and stuff like that, but it just felt so... It felt needless.
I think it could work, but it would be a totally different style.
Yeah.
You mentioned that as written you're supposed to reach the surface at one point.
How Out of the Abyss works as a book is you start off in the slave area, you break free, you work your way up, befriending all these locations as you go up, working out with all these factions what you can do for them, doing all these work and things like that. And then you get closer to the surface and surface and surface, and then eventually you get to either Blingdenstone or Guntlegrim, and then there's a passage to the surface. And you leave. And then 6 to 9 months in-game time later, you get a letter from the Dwarf King saying, "We need you to come back," or you tie in a reason that player characters have to come back. And then they come back and they go back through all these towns, and then they go, "Oh, we're the, heroes from 6 months ago. Do you remember us? Yes, you're the heroes. Well, we need an army. Oh, great. Well, have some riding lizards and have some all this other nonsense." And you basically build this army up, and then you're meant to take that army and go south to Menzoberranzan and do something with it, I think. I don't really know. It doesn't actually say. It just says you build an army up and then you start going south. But Menzoberranzan, when you read it in the book, is just all the stealth chapter, so... Yeah.
But again, that can work beautifully. It's just not our style.
No, it's not my writing style, and it's not the style of the one I run.
I think it'd be much more difficult to podcast.
Yes.
Having it as the full version, but that's not to say that the full version wouldn't work.
I think the full version would only work.
It just isn't what we did for this game.
The full version would only work if you literally were planning like 2 years in advance, and you had a group of people that like having their own little campaigns about befriending every little faction and then building an army up, and then each of them are little generals and they have their own little army, and then you do.
And some people love that.
You do proper fights with demons and half your army gets slaughtered, but then you go somewhere else and recruit more, and Some people will love that, but it's way, way beyond what I would do.
I don't know. I really found this setting very complicated and complex, and maybe it was just my lack of understanding of the lore and all of that stuff, but it was really like, as a world, especially as like what was 20 episodes, like a mini campaign, in character, because of the type of character I was playing, it was fine to be ignorant.
Yeah.
But as a player, I felt seriously out of my depth. I was like, oh my gosh, I have no fucking clue what's going on right now. There were so many layers and so many different things, like things that I've absolutely never heard of before, and I was just like, wow, okay.
I think if
Luckily, everybody else knows what's going on.
No, we didn't.
I think if
That's
played
just
as,
it. None of us, well, Tauno's probably the only person who had much knowledge. We were just, well, my character would react like this, so let's just go with it.
Yeah, I
think
don't know.
If played along the book, we would have had, as you mentioned, Nikolai, we would have had way more time in every location, which would also have given a game master, a storyteller, dungeon master, whatever your preferred term is, more time to explain the situation or introduce characters, talk about the places they are.
Yeah.
But due to the fact that we were planning on having a below 20 number of episodes, and even if that wasn't the plan, it is the plan now.
I think when I looked at what was here, when I looked at Strad, I tried to do how many episodes do I think it's going to run. When I wrote what was from Strad, I started it at being 23 to 25, and it ended up being 18 or 19 if you include the epilogues.
Yeah, I think Strad is a much shorter campaign, actually.
When I looked at the Abyss, I genuinely expected to be about 30 episodes, because I was like, there's so much going on, there's so much back and forth. I think it's probably going to be about 30 because things need to breathe. However, when I actually sat down to write each episode, I wanted each episode to have enough of the story still moving on, and a lot of what's in Out of the Abyss is very, for want of a better term, stagnant, and you stay where you are, and you do a side quest for this dwarf, a side quest for this Daryl, a side quest for this were-gnome, a side quest for this, and you build rapport, and then you go and do another quest for him, and then another quest for him. But you need to literally sit and come up with ideas what kind of thing they'd want to do for it, because there's not that many quests to do that we didn't actually cover. So it's very much for people who would like to be sort of quite slow and methodical, I think. But I think the speed we did it is the same speed we did Strad, where every episode has, you're in a location, this has happened, this is where the story goes, and by the time you've got from the start of the episode to the end of the episode, you've experienced pretty much everything that was there, or could be there, without stretching it so far that it became... I think every episode we did in Out of the Abyss could easily have been 3 or 4 episodes if you're doing it like a normal tabletop game. But I think normal tabletop games are ones as well that you can meet up once a week and you literally can spend 4 hours doing shopping, and then that's it.
Well, I mean, my game this Friday we played for almost 6 hours, and the grand total of what the players did was visit a farm, ride a carriage back town, sell the beets they bought at the farm. They were told that there was a sick girl and they went to cure her, and then they swam down the river to visit a shipwreck. That took them 6 hours.
Yep. Whereas everything we do typically is, every episode is about 2 hours. So it's a third of that, but it hopefully never feels too rushed. I say hopefully because I hope one of you will tell me if it did or not.
No, it doesn't. The thing is, for a podcast, or for like, you know, doing, like having it released as a podcast, you don't want it to be too long.
Yeah.
In any case. I mean, in my experience, we even cut it. We went from like an hour or an hour and a half to 5 minutes max.
Yeah.
I think...
Because, yeah.
I think I might be alone in this, but and maybe it's because I recognize these demons, but sometimes it felt a bit, oh, he's Demogorgon, and oh, fuck. The 2 baboon-headed prince of all demons who rules 3, I think might be even more, layers of the abyss. he's shown up in episode 1. Fuck, what do I do? Then by episode 19, he's already gone. And that works for the podcast because we have to keep up this pace.
Yeah.
But I, as a player who recognized that particular character and knows the publication history of that character, might have felt that there could have been done more. But again, the fact that I'm the only one at this metaphorical table that feels that way, I think it's better to do it the other way around. I mean, I listen to other podcasts and watch other live plays, and if most of the table isn't aware of these things, if most of the table isn't as interested in a character, even if that character has potential, there's no reason to push for them to be included.
I agree.
Because, dear listeners, this is, as much as we enjoy our time playing this, it is also a product for you to listen to.
Yes.
You hopefully have enjoyed it as much as we have.
Lots of fun to play. We did kind of blast through a whole bunch of some of the other things that are in the setting, but
I think the main point of the end of it all is to make it fast enough paced that we get through the story, slow enough you can all still enjoy the story, enjoy what's going on, but no episode starts with you go to a field and just sit for 6 hours and do nothing. It feels like all the points are there, and the bits that I've adapted to sort of tie them into the direction you go all kind of feel that they tell the story based on the influences I put on. Like, for example, I have mentioned that I based a lot of what I wrote an adaptation for on the Inferno, and it's all trying to tie those elements in and still keep it at this nice continuous speed all the way through. So it starts, and by the time you get to the end you feel you have progressed like a chapter in a book, rather than being this I think if we were doing streaming with maps and stuff like that, it would be very different. But because we're sitting down and telling a story literally just for audio enjoyment, when you can't just sit with visuals and maps and people's reactions and stuff, I think that when you do that kind of thing, you have to have a relative speed to it to make it continuously enjoyable.
Also, on the topic of maps, given that this was an entirely underground adventure, would it not have been possible that certain areas overlap in a 2D space? One would be above another?
Possibly. I mean,
feels like they should have.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of... This is why I kind of did a lot of the Inferno stuff. I kind of like the idea of it being Gornogrim's at the top on one side, and it sort of snakes downwards from there, and as it snakes downwards you get at the top there you get a lot of the winds, and then it goes down a bit and you get, what was the next down? Was it Blinding Stone? And then after Blinding Stone it kind of snakes down again, and you get a sort of side pocket that's got another grotto, and as it snakes down, and you've got the lakes and stuff like that. So it does exist on different tiers, but it's all flat enough that when you stand at Graven Hollow you could see up to one side and you see Gornogrim, and you look to the other side and you see Menzelbrandsen. So it was kind of more like the Inferno, where it was kind of like a bowl more than a thing, but it could have been directly above each other. Yeah, you could easily do that. I've forgotten where we've got to in the script.
We made it to Blingdenstone, so we met Jim John, did the whole gambling thing, then we went to the Pudding King.
Yes,
oh
so
God.
we're on to episode 5.
Jeez, the Pudding King.
Yes, episode 5, the Pudding King and the Nocteams. So we've covered the Nocteams already. What do you remember of episode 5 and the Pudding King, apart from 13 pouring dragon spunk into one of the slimes to make it more acidic?
The Pudding King, bloody creepy. Sorry.
Yeah, the toys
They
as
were
well.
literally
what
rushing.
that? Oh God, that was straight out of a freaking horror movie, a horror movie from the 80s.
Yeah,
nonetheless,
the toys was all me.
Was there not also a bit of the exorcism going on with the horrific injuries we did to the Pudding King's corporeal form and how he ignored it?
Yeah, the whole point of it was he had possessed with the power of Jubilex, which is why he had the tattoo in his arm. They just kept moving. So it was basically just to be your traditional kind of cultist, kind of zealot. He lost his mind, or he was talking to these 3 kind of blood dolls of Drow. I think I did originally have it that they were talking back to him, because if you asked Stool to talk to them, and Stool immediately was like, oh fuck no. Because there was some sort of horror element to that they were all
concerning.
talking. Yeah.
That was really quite freaky.
Yeah.
So what 13 really just had was actually just a doll.
Yep. Oh, it was
Nice.
a doll. The doll you picked up was Sebi.
Yeah, Sebi.
Sebi was a reference to Cerberus because he was that. Yeah, he was that
Three
part
heads.
of the Infernal, and also he was tied into a couple of things with the Pudding King that I kind of meant that he was a kind of easily distracted from what he was meant to be doing.
So when 13 took it,
Yeah.
he was distracted.
Yes. He was kind of sort of crazy that would be easily distracted by, I want my toy back. Would run in, sort of run at you to get the toy back rather than sort of be careful, if you know what I mean. That kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
My favourite kind of...
Every
Oh yeah, I love them.
But yeah, the Pudding King was a sort of weird experience. Eric's thing was he wanted the Pudding King dead because he didn't feel the Pudding King did enough for his father, because the Pudding King was the reason that Blingdenstone was slowly, basically being dissolved. But Eric again was this kind of like, you should be doing more for my father kind of thing, which is why the Pudding King had to get killed, in his mind anyway.
So why should the Pudding King have been doing anything?
The Pudding King is just basically, in the version that I wrote, was just basically the servant of Jubilex. In the book, I'm trying to remember what he did.
So basically he thought he was a crappy servant, is that it?
Eric thought he was a crap servant, yeah.
Right.
Whereas the Pudding King himself thought he was doing, as good a job as any, really.
He probably was, in fairness.
But the Pudding King was listening to the three Drow, who were basically the three Drow advisors who had been put in these dolls to advise him on things. But the Drow had retreated, and it was kind of some sort of remnants of the fell magic in the Drow that had been left.
And Drow aren't going to give particularly useful advice.
They might.
Only if it's useful to them. And actually, in my notes, what I have for the encounter in here. Attacked by slimes, the whirlpool motif conjures slimes. One doll was Lady Vidani, one was an elderly drow called Baskerville, and a young one which was called Lord Papyrus.
Yep, General Baskerville, Lord Papyrus, and Lady Verdana.
Yes.
Because me, when I need to get names, I look for fonts.
Yep, and he had the tattoo of Jubilex was on his hand, so we cut his arm off at the elbow, and then the tattoo kept reappearing further and further up his body.
Yep.
To the point where he's decapitated and his head still functions with the tattoo between his eyes.
Yep.
And then Ishidoro is like, oh my god, it's a demon, and stabs it through the eye. And then decides that we need to burn all of this. Apart from the dog toy, Sebi, that 13 found, Eric says thank you via stool. Still fucking creepy. That is word for word my note for that episode.
Wow. That's great.
I need to write these notes up like they're Tracy's diary or something.
The major note that 13 took from that episode was that she was going to make a plan. Yeah, it was. She had a plan to get Ishidoro to drink the dragon spunk cream. And I think she managed to make him drink it.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah. He's like, drink this!
He drank it.
He almost killed a myconid with it as well.
Yes, he poisoned the myconid.
It's medicine.
Yeah, and we nearly got ourselves driven out by Bithydia straight away, harming one of their people.
So, having dispatched the Pudding King, I did forget to say that when you met the Knock teams earlier, you did basically say, one of them mentioned Jim Jar the criminal, and all of you went, oh him, yeah, he's in the inn.
Yeah, we did. We totally dobbed him in.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think
So
any of us
helpful.
like him that much, though.
So, episode 6 started with you meeting Jim Jar, who basically was running towards where you are, going did you sell me out to these guards?
We were like, what?
And then it was...
What,
That wasn't us.
I know. And then it was...
But he suggests going to Gauntlgrim.
Yep. And I suggest going to Gauntlgrim, which was the one that was up around the sort of weird sort of bends, and you found the dead orc.
And which I really bit onto Gauntlgrim as a person somewhat familiar with Forgotten Realms lore as, a huge dwarven metropolis city. So I thought, well, that's our way out of here. And then we go there. We run into, though, a Drow recapture patrol.
Yep. At this point was when I brought in... It was meant to be the Drow chasing you, but I had the Drow chase the other lot of NPCs that had left. So
the dwarf woman, the Quaggoth, the orc, and the surviving Werrat.
No, it was the orc, the dwarf, and the Quaggoth. The Werrat was the one you basically just threw food at when you killed the Drow, and it just befriended you.
Yeah, so it was there.
My were-rat.
Yeah, but it wasn't the same Werrat that you had at the start. Was it or not?
No, I know
okay.
it wasn't.
The killing stuff. I'm so sorry. I killed so many people by accident.
Adorable.
I mean, to be fair, the first person you smack with a marble shovel, did they die of that?
Yes.
They did.
Then you should have known better by the time you smacked other people. But the first time, you couldn't have known.
I don't know. You didn't die though.
But I wasn't the first one.
No, you weren't.
But ours was much more sort of like light, don't touch that, rather than a sort of bang, you're dead.
That's not how
don't
I
know.
remember it.
I think it was an instinctual thing where Layla just doesn't know what to do, so she's like, oh, I've got the shovel. Okay, wait, I'm gonna whack it. Like,
Well,
yeah.
when we got to them, these two Drow were torturing this poor dwarf,
Yes.
having already killed the orc that was travelling with her.
They didn't kill the orc.
Did they not?
The Quaggoth killed the orc.
What killed the orc? So we found him...
What the experience you found is you found a couple of arrows in the wall, and then you found a body of an orc that had been literally ripped to pieces, and then you found the sort of area with the high winds where you found the dwarf being basically tortured by these Drow.
Which still directed us to her.
Yes. What had happened is that the orc had been shot on the leg. The dwarf, the Quaggoth, and the orc had pulled in to sort of try and hide behind some bushes, and the orc wouldn't shut up about how much pain he was in. The Quaggoth, being terrified of being recaptured, ripped the orc to pieces and then ran.
Right. Ugh. Fair enough.
So yeah, that was why there was this bloody, ripped apart body of an orc lying in the middle. I think it was full of beetles and stuff like that, which was much more of a tie-in to the Inferno than it was to book.
It was covered in flies and hornets.
Yep, that was reference to the Inferno.
Nah.
There's 13 put in a jar.
It was correct.
You did.
Yeah.
They were useful.
This was
Later.
also the point at which we realised that the twins from the beginning were were-rats.
I think in the original they are were-gnomes, but they are were-rats, so they get very sort of weird because they don't know when they're going to turn. Because you're underground, you don't know when you're going to transform as a were-rat.
Oh.
So that's one of the things you can
And
play
of
up,
course-
but I was just like...
And of course the one that latched onto us
I think
had
the
no
one that latched
memory of
onto you,
its
I
other
think it was just
form.
a sort of more sort of closer to a were-rat, but a sort of permanent rat kind of thing, rather than a sort of
Yeah.
deep gnome
A rat that
that just turned every now and then.
A rat that would wear into something else rather than
Yeah,
something else into
a
a
rat
rat.
that would wear
yeah.
into more humanoid sort of motif rather than a...
Rather than the other way around.
Yeah.
So we then divvied up the armour to different people, and I got a chest plate, which we were like, okay, how the hell do we make this look less drow? Because I'm
You put
already
it on a drow.
obviously a drow. How do I not look like I'm a well-equipped drow from the city? Let's bleach it with some of the dragon spunk.
Yep, that was it.
Oh god.
Now, whose idea was that?
Ishidoro,
Probably
Ishidoro.
I think.
He's not
Ishidoro,
here, so I
yeah.
just blame Shiraz for it.
I think it actually was him, yeah. And then we set the were-rat completely free, and it went and savaged one of the drow corpses and then brought me an iPad.
Yep.
Which was very cute.
Yep. And then I think you rescued the dwarf. She told you what happened, that the rest of the drow had gone chasing after the Quaggoth, and then she led you to the doors of Gotnelgrim,
Yes.
which, as you walked inside, you saw the 3 dwarven banners, which was a leopard, a lion, and a wolf.
Yep.
Which, if you're familiar with your Inferno, are the 3 creatures that stand keeping people back from leaving the abyss. leaving the Inferno. Which is why those 3 banners were there.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And you saw the sort of carved out face
Pure
of...
quality statue.
Yes, of Brunner. The weird thing about Brunner is that Brunner's whole lore is that he did disappear at one point, because I think he faked his own death to go back into battle.
Okay.
So yeah, Brunner's a weird one, but the idea that the first thing the dwarf says to him is, "I thought you were dead," was meant to kind of have this sort of weird thing of why are people in this sort of area? Because it was meant to be the Drow have captured everyone that's here, apart from obviously the Myconids and the Were-Gnomes and the Were-Gnomes and stuff that were all there already. It's much more why are, like, the dwarves, for example, of Gauntlegrim are all ones that have been captured. They've just got minimal supplies and stuff that they've managed to have on them and, keep or liberate from the Drow and take up there. That's why they have no metal, for example. So yeah, that's...
But Rasthikos recognised Brunner.
Yes, I think it was he didn't recognise. He asked. I think it was you got a natural 20 for your roll. And
yeah, we passed a statue, and I asked, "Do I recognise who's on that statue?"
Yes. Then I think you got a natural 20 for it, so yes, you recognised him as Brunner Battlehammer.
And then we met the king, who matched the statue.
Yep. And most of his stuff is actually in episode 7, so we should
leave it there.
Probably keep that for next time. But of your ascent up to Gauntlegrim, what were your thoughts on the story up to that point? And we'll start at the top. We'll start with Layla.
Well, I found it was interesting, but as I mentioned earlier, I was severely out of my depth with what was actually going on. So I kind of tried to sort of, keep more to the background and just step in when somebody needs smacked in the face or something. But yeah, I really, story-wise, I think what made it the characters and the interactions. So I especially enjoyed the way that 13 and Ishidoro, although they had sort of a very similar personalities, they went about things in completely the opposite way. So that was a lot of fun. And then also the Drow dynamic with Triss's character, so where the entirety of the story up until then, she was just trying to mask the fact that she was Drow. And for me, as Layla had come from top world, whatever, she probably never encountered Drow in any case until she was imprisoned by them. So being wholly unaware of the political situation, and all of that stuff, I felt that story-wise it was good for me from a character perspective because I wasn't supposed to know, and I didn't. So it was great. Cool. Thank you.
Cool. So, Tauno, what was your thoughts the first 6 episodes?
Well, my initial thoughts of those first 6 episodes were that I was surprised the Drow had not caught up to us. In that, I was certain that they would eventually show up, but I had not expected us to have, gotten into a civilized place beforehand. That was sort of the thing that I had in mind for several episodes, that what will I do when the Drow get here? Beyond that, it was mostly a concern with Rasthikos at this point in the story. I think actually that very first episode really settled this, in that I wanted to play Rasthikos as having this arrogant, sort of noble-ish streak, and that with that huge group we had at the start, the fact that so many of them did not really contribute, while of course the player-controlled character did contribute, that at least gave him some reason to hang out with them. But I did sort of want to really sell the fact that he could be arrogant and not really consider the ideas of the others as much as he perhaps should. But yeah, I think he did get sold at least on the competence, if not the eccentricity, of a number of other characters. And that was sort of something I wanted to convey quite often, that he would grit his teeth and allow the other players to, do things as per their prerogative. But once in a while he might step in to smash if he thought that was the best solution.
Okay.
Again, that was why I sort of tried to pick a fight with Yesterbrod.
Yeah, that makes sense.
At one point, you can't negotiate with the giant, rotting, demonic snail.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
He was kind of polite, though.
He was just trying to seat us at that waiting room.
Yeah, he just wanted us to take our seats, and for some reason we found it really hard to answer whether or not we were with the bride or groom.
I mean, the irony of that is that when we returned, Rasthikos was that close to being corrupted anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fine. I hit you with a shovel, so you're fine. You're okay.
Okay. Dragon, what was your thoughts 6 episodes in?
As Dragon, my thoughts were mostly, we seem to be managing to avoid the Drow really well. That seems a bit suspicious. Oh, there was a whole group of them that got ahead of us while we were off doing the Ooze Temple, I assume, dealing with the Pudding King.
Mm-hmm.
They went straight past us.
Well, they followed the other NPCs that all left before you. So actually you being led into the city to deal with the dragon was actually the reason the Drow weren't following you.
Oh, that's fair. That does make sense. But they must have known that there was a number that hadn't left Crackleslough again.
I think they just sort of went, meh, the trail leads this way.
Yeah, like 13 was unconcerned because that's how minions operate. You don't necessarily count how many people are. Because, sometimes it's easier just to beg forgiveness than go hunting one guy in the woods.
Fair.
Bring back a shoe.
Exactly.
For Therese, she was very much more, okay, they haven't killed me yet, despite me being Drow. I'm unsure of what's going on. I don't know what the human is. I don't know what the Tiefling is. A Dragonborn I can kind of get my head around. Goblins I know. Goblins make sense. That's fine. But she was just so fucking confused for the rest of it. And kind of absolutely lost her heart to Stool. Because he was just like, you smell nice. And then cuddled in. And she was just like, there's this small creature that is helpless and sweet. And it is actively spending time with me.
Aww.
So that kind of completely broke her worldview for a little bit.
Fair enough.
And then we found the slavers torturing the dwarf. And all of the Drow instincts came right back up. Because if I remember correctly, if we didn't kill them, I was going to interrogate them.
Yes, I think you were. I think at that point you were getting the later ones you wanted to interrogate.
Yes.
Okay. And finally, Susie.
Well, as a player, I had a lot of fun. It was frustrating at points because there was more that I wanted to explore, particularly in the Mushroom Village as well. There was more things. I know we went back to it, but by then it dynamically changed. But it was also good because it added to the weird sort of sense of mystery and urgency, because we were just flying by the seat of her pants. And as far as 13 was concerned, she was having a great time, really. She'd spent most of her life in a library reading about people that did this kind of thing and then cleaning up what was left of them. So she was just sort of, fearless, because, I think she had no idea really about the terrors of the demons unfolding in front of her. She didn't really put anything together. She was just having fun.
I think she was enjoying being able to cause chaos. Being told off. Because there wasn't a master. So she could do what she liked.
Yeah, 13 at the beginning of the game compared to the end of the game had definitely pushed boundaries and seen what she could get away with. Mm-hmm. And it all started because you gave her a pair of teeth, which was kind of like the Dobby-esque, here's a sock. And she's like, oh, I have a thing now. No one stopped her taking things. But I think she took food from Ishidoro when they were... Was it the dwarfs were the first people that fed us all?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in Crackleslough the first time we got fed.
Yeah.
And we repaid them by turning the dragon on them.
Yeah, which is super helpful.
I know. I think the most dramatic bit in these first episodes was 13 not understanding what scritches meant with Thimbershod.
Oh god, yeah.
Wow, that was awkward. That was so awkward.
Yeah. It was very much that moment of like, oh shit! Reach forward, grab 13 and pull her back.
Yeah.
Got too close.
I don't know when you figured it out, but I think I figured it out around the first or second mention of scritches, and I did not know how to broach that subject, because what if I was wrong and I was the guy who brought up that male cake?
Oh my god.
That wasn't what was going on, and you were just a weird pervert.
Yeah,
that would have been super awkward.
We were just kind of like, yeah, might not want it right. No, back you get. Do not participate in these scritches. Because of course, I don't think 13 had any concept.
Oh no, like, she was just totally... Yeah, I mean, I don't think she even knows where baby goblins come from. I mean, she was always taught that she was a product of 9 and 4.
Yeah.
You know?
But guys, nobody knows where baby...
Yeah, they just appear.
Exactly.
There's always more goblins. Goblins are awesome. Thank you for letting me play a goblin.
It's fine.
I think by this point, possibly, Treese was starting to be less freaked out by, like, the above-ground races that were in the party.
Yeah, because they were just as bewildered at everything as she was.
Yeah, pretty much, because, like, she was a Drow from, like, a deep tier of the Underdark, so she hadn't had any interactions with above-ground races, and while there is trade between the deep cities and the surface, it's usually to Drow that are on the surface. So, like, she knew things were weird up there, but she didn't know enough about anyone else that lived up there to really know how to interact with any of you. Yeah. But she was starting to settle and be like, okay, is this how you people work? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Again, it bears mentioning that in the very first episode, Triz stripped naked on the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Drow don't... Okay, so she was originally conceived as a very typical Drow. And being a Drow female from a matrilineal city...
She could do whatever.
Pretty much, yeah. And given how hierarchical their setup is, anyone who wasn't a Drow was completely insignificant. And if you were a Drow female, you were already in charge anyway. So it wasn't something that would have made her feel vulnerable in any way. And it did mean that we didn't have this shining beacon of light for Demogorgon to focus on.
Yeah. When, like Layla was concerned about how much clothes she was actually wearing, because, gosh, am I scantily clad? You know, like that kind of thing. But, like, the whole time it was also knowing that, first of all, Rasthikos couldn't see anything. So it was fine.
Yeah.
And he appeared to be the only, like, person within the group that there would be any sort of, like, oh my gosh, maybe you shouldn't be looking. That kind of...
Yeah.
It was certainly a surprise when Stool turned on the light. I mean, like, here you are, just rowing a boat filled with, 15, 14 former slaves on an escape in the dark, and suddenly the light is turned on and one of them has stripped naked in front of you. What?
This is what happens in the Underdark, you fool.
Yep.
Rules.
What happens in the Underdark stays in the Underdark.
Exactly.
It definitely took us a while getting out.
I do like how, like, for nearly, like, the whole game, though, the chains that we wore in the first episode, like, kind of symbolically bound us for the whole of the campaign, because we were all kind of banding together in that every place we were going, everyone had lost it somehow. Like, we were, as a group, all particularly stable people, but all the people we were meeting were even crazy.
Yes. Yeah.
So we all just kind of sort of clung to each other in this kind of, okay, at least I know what kind of crazy you are. Wait.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. It was just like, you're crazy, but I can work with your kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't actually think any of you were crazy. I thought everybody in the Underdark was crazy. It's just, what is happening in this place? Can I just go home?
So, on that note, unless anyone has anything else they wish to add for episodes 1 to 6.
I never got any armor that fit.
Until you got your stone armor, and then it was uncomfortable.
Which happens in episode 7.
So, yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay.
Next time
On the recap. So, next episode will hopefully be episode 7 to 12, but we've been entirely how far we get. We'll aim to do 7 to 12 next episode, then we can do 13 to 19 on the final episode. So, thank you everyone for joining cast again tonight to skip about episodes. Say good night and we'll call it there.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Cold silence returns. The waters lay still, for this week at least. Join us again next week for more of our tale. This podcast is an adaptation of Out of the Abyss, a 5th edition D&D adventure. It was adapted from the original story by Nikoli Popsky. The podcast features Nikoli, Dragon, Shiraz, Freya, Susie Q, Tauno, and Wednesday LeFay. All music was written and performed by Daniel Boström. Artwork was by John Moore. And if you, dear listener, wish to acquire your own sets of finest metal or acrylic adventuring dice, then journey through the Underdark to dndice.co.uk and speak the name Penance RPG at the checkout for a 5% discount off your order. Farewell and Godspeed, for we fear the madness is closing in. Good night out there, whatever you are. Ha 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 ha.